All right, I'm going on a 2-day backpacking trip, and a couple of my viewers have suggested that I show sort of what I eat and how I do backcountry cuisine. So that's what this video is about. So first, let me show you what I bring in terms of cooking so that you have an idea of what you might need to do this type of system. So yeah, a couple things. So I use this 570 milliliter Evernew pot cup thing. And I added some, it came with a very small amount of insulation on the handles. I took the handles off and added my own because I was getting my fingers burned often. And then inside of it, if you're not familiar with a company called Trail Designs, they invented this titanium windscreen / pot holder. It's incredible. I own 2 different versions for a big mug, for a big pot and a little pot. Very lightweight, very eloquently designed. I've actually spoken to the owners who run the company, just incredible guys, all engineers. So that's my windscreen / pot holder. And just throw this back on there. Let's get rid of it, sorry. Then the stove is this one you can't buy. As I mentioned, I was working with Trail Designs for a little while on a project, but they sell one just like this, just like 10% bigger, called the Kojin. It weighs almost nothing. It's basically just a little tin with a fire-resistant seal and some fleece material that absorbs alcohol, denatured alcohol. But what's really nice is you don't have to dose out the alcohol. So quick caveat, or quick explanation, normally when you have an alcohol burning stove, you have to pour out a certain amount of alcohol, and then whatever isn't burned up when your food is boiling, you just kind of lose to the atmosphere. You can't really pour it back in the container very well. It's really hard to blow out because it's this liquid pool of alcohol, whereas this is super easy to blow out, and whatever you don't use stays absorbed. So I have a bunch of videos on this. I won't go into more detail, but that's a stove. And then a little bottle for alcohol. Sometimes I have to bring 2 bottles, but this works for like 2 nights typically. So that kind of goes in there. The whole thing nests inside, as you may have seen when I pulled it out. Something like that. All right, and then little Bic mini lighter, and then this MSR foldable spoon. And Evernew doesn't sell this with a lid, and the lid they came up with, I think, is a bad design. I don't like it. It's really expensive too, and it's not that lightweight. So I made this one out of titanium. I also made a video about how I did that, so you can check that out if you want. And then I keep the whole thing together with a rubber band. And for those who are weight conscious like myself, this comes in at 140 grams, and for my American friends, that's 4.9 ounces. So it's a very lightweight setup. Now, quick explanation as to why I chose this. First of all, most of what you see here is inspired by a guy named Andrew Skirka. I've learned an absolute enormous amount from him. I'm very grateful to him. I've exchanged a few emails with him. Super cool guy, and I met him once in Yosemite. So please check him out, andrewskirka.com. These recipes that you're about to see are from him, and I discovered Trail Designs from him, and he uses a very similar setup, slightly bigger than this. But yeah, anyhow, so one of the things that he points out, rightly so, is it's much nicer to eat out of a pot like this than it is to be, sort of digging around in a Ziploc bag or digging around in one of the backcountry meal bags that you would buy at a place like REI. There's way less trash. Those bags are really difficult to clean out completely, and they have kind of sharp, rigid edges. They don't pack down that well. They're super expensive, and it's just much nicer. And these things clean up really easily in the backcountry. Some of them have a nonstick coating. This one doesn't, but the ones that do, and this one, they're very easy to clean out. You take some leaves and you can kind of scrub out there. I've never had a trouble making this or keeping this clean in the backcountry. Anyway, so that's the setup. And now to the recipes that are basically Andrew Skirka's. You can get them for free from his website. He gives out a free recipe PDF book. So I'll take you through them and explain to you the pros and cons. And my wife is here. She's going to explain a little bit about how certain things are made. So first thing, for breakfast, I always just eat granola. My wife makes this here at the house, and making this is outside the scope of the video, but basically homemade granola. You can put whatever you want in there, or just buy granola. Sometimes we add banana chips to it. And then this is just instant non-fat dry milk. And so you just mix the right amount of this into there, which is, there we go, 3.5 ounces of granola, 1 ounce of milk powder. And then we just store that in Ziploc baggies. And in the morning, I just add cold water and eat it cold. Or if it's a really cold morning, I'll add hot water. And then it's more like, porridge or oatmeal or something like that, but it still stays crunchy. I don't like soggy stuff. So that's breakfast. And this isn't exactly from Andrew Skirka, although he does do some oatmeal stuff. This is more or less our own style. So, all right. So then the other thing, coffee. So I have experimented with the really common instant espresso that a lot of backpackers like. It's not my favorite, and you still have the issue of cream. If you like cream, I do like a little bit of cream. Then, of course, Starbucks makes something like this, an instant packet, but they're pretty expensive, and not a big fan of Starbucks. Don't like the taste. Don't really like the company. But anyway, we discovered these at Trader Joe's. They're, I think, like 15 cents in total when you buy them. So they're really economically priced. They taste great for us. And we don't normally put sugar in our coffee, but we do put a splash of cream.
They already have the cream.
And they already have some cream and sugar in them. Yeah. So, but just as terms of normally coffee, that's how we do it. This has a splash of sugar and cream in it, and it's enough for us. So anyway, okay. So to the first meal. This is the most popular from Andrew Skirka. He calls it beans and rice and Fritos and cheese. We call it Frito beans. And maybe one comment. So there's 3 meals we're going to go over, in case you're wondering. So we're going to go over Frito beans, pesto noodles, and peanut noodles. And here's what Andrew Skirka has figured out, and what I think is so spot on about his observation. So there's like 5 or 6 things that you want to think about for backcountry kitchen stuff. First thing is you want it to be healthy. And that's one of the big problems with the dehydrated meals. They're so full of sodium so that they can sit on the shelf forever that they're really not healthy. They affect your bowels. You want it to be cheap. So each meal that we make ends up being around $1.50, whereas, backcountry kitchen meals at REI and stuff are in the $6 to $12 range. So nutritious, cheap. You want it to be lightweight, which is why everything is always dehydrated to some extent in the backcountry. You want it to taste good, which is obviously a personal thing. Andrew Skirka says the best seasoning is hunger. If you're hungry enough, then you'll pretty much eat anything. But honestly, you're going to laugh. We've actually eaten these meals not while backpacking, just here around the house here and there. My kids love them. And there's kind of a joke that backpackers think that Frito beans is good enough for Thanksgiving dinner. The other thing you're looking for in the backcountry is ease of assembly. So you don't want this super complicated meal that requires 7 pots and pans. And then for thru hikers, you want these things to be easily assemblable, like on the road or even here at the house, not having, hours of cooking and preparation. So, and then he really tries to hit a balance with caloric intake for the weight. So he actually did calculations on calories per gram and all of that. So they're really well thought out. And basically, I would say sort of 2 final comments about that. The first is that the advantage to this system over going into REI and buying stuff is really 2 things: nutrition and cost. Way cheaper, way more nutritious. And the reason the stuff at REI can't achieve the nutrition levels here is because like this can stay on the shelf forever. That's fine, but this can't. And since they want to sell you a product that you don't have to combine with a trip to the grocery store, they're forced to only come up with things that can sit on the shelf forever. Whereas this system requires that you have some fresh ingredients, and they can't really do that and sell it. So the advantage of this over just sort of opening up your fridge and grabbing cheese and apples and all of that is the weight savings. So you could just open up your fridge and grab a bunch of stuff and throw it in a bag and go. But over long distances and many nights, like the 7 nights I did in Alaska, your food ends up being a humongous portion of your weight. And if you're not weight conscious, then, it really kills your back. So that's the sort of philosophy behind these meals. Now we'll get into the meals themselves. So Frito beans. Shell, you want to make any comments?
Yeah. So the beans are refried beans, but these are the brand we get online. I found them on Amazon. Can't find them in the store.
And they're
So they're
basically
dry,
dehydrated
right?
refried beans.
Yep. And then you add instant rice. This is white, but you can also get brown. It will just take longer to cook while you're out there. And then you can do like make your own taco seasoning mix or grab a mix from the store, and it tells you like the weight.
Okay.
So we mix all those together.
Real quick. So we got 2 ounces of beans, 1.5 of rice, 0.2 of taco seasoning, ounce of cheese, ounce of Fritos.
So the cheese and the Fritos you put in a separate bag so they don't get weird and mushy
So,
and
yeah,
stuff.
so, yeah.
So you'll cook this in your stove, and then you'll add those at the very end when you're ready to eat it.
And this is the only meal of the three that needs a little bit of simmering once the water is boiling. Like we don't boil the water and then put everything in. We actually have everything in already. That way, if the water doesn't need purification, you don't actually have to wait for it to completely boil for the other meals. This one requires maybe 3 to 5 minutes of simmering until the rice is not crunchy. If you want to eat crunchy rice, then it takes less time.
Yep, and you just put a water to probably cover it, and then as you're cooking, you sometimes have to add a bit more water until it's the right.
Right. And I like mine fairly dry. Other people that I've backpacked with, they like it real soupy. That's a personal preference thing. I won't take a stand on that. Actually, Andrew Skirka has an article about why you should eat more soupy stuff because you're always dehydrated in the backcountry. But anyway, yeah, and then corn chips. So what we normally do is once this is all mixed up and hot and soft, we'll sort of we'll bring like strips of the cheddar cheese, an ounce worth, and then we'll kind of like tear some off, throw it in, throw a couple Fritos in, take a couple bites, and then keep doing that. If you just throw it all in at once, then the cheese will get super gooey and mixed up, which is fine, but sometimes that chunk of cheese is nice, and then the Fritos will get a little bit soggy. He also points out, just how calorically rich these are. There's really only 3 ingredients: corn, vegetable oil, and salt. So it's simple. It's not super full of chemicals and all of that. The other big advantage to this meal that I've never seen him mention or talk about, but I've noticed it myself, is that you can enjoy half the meal without cooking. So basically, I was once on a trip and decided to skip dinner and just make it all the way back to the car a little bit earlier than expected. And I was really getting hungry, and so I reached in, and I didn't want to stop and boil and make a meal, but I just ate the Fritos and the cheese, which was great. And so you have a meal, but you also have a snack if for some reason you decide to skip dinner. And this would be a little bit plain to eat later, but you could. But just to kind of have that variability to grab, maybe just the chips or maybe just the cheese or both, and then, not be completely dedicated. You couldn't do that with like a boil and bag meal, which you basically can't eat unless there's water and boiling and all of that. So this is Andrew Skirka's favorite. He said that this is also the favorite of most of his clients. It is my wife's favorite, but it's not my favorite. And probably the last 10 or 15 times we've gone backpacking, we have made up these meals for our friends too. And so some of my friends like this one the most out of all three. But the second one is my favorite one, called Pesto Noodles. Go ahead and take us through it, Joe.
Yep. So you just open up your bag of ramen and put it in here and throw the seasoning packet away. And then you can also add nuts. Sometimes we add pine nuts. That's really good. I just don't have any.
Toasted pine nuts are super good.
So, but everything will be separate in this one. Like you'll put in, just the noodles, because you only want to cook the noodles together.
Yeah.
And then you'll add the other things. So at the end, when the noodles are to like your liking of how soft they are, and then you can add in pesto sauce, which I've gotten this at Aldi.
Have you ever made this?
I used to make it, and it just kind of wasn't worth it to me.
Yeah. This is also good for through hikers where you don't have to make it. You just find a bottle of pesto sauce.
Yeah, and it's tastier in my opinion. So that's what we've been doing, and basically, like a third, depending on how strong you like it, you could do like a third of the can for each bag of.
I think it's a jar.
Glass jar.
Glass jar.
Of ramen noodles. So then you'll mix that in after. So you would keep that separate, like in a little container or a bag. It often leaks if it's in a bag. We're still trying to figure out.
Well, we've had success with double bagging it. Single bagging always leaks.
And then you can bring also like about an ounce, depending on how much you like cheese. We do of
Yes.
Parmesan cheese and add that at the end, and then nuts if you want, like some pine nuts. Give it a nice. It's nice to have something crunchy, so
Yeah.
we usually add in pine nuts. And then I just saw this was at Aldi the other day. We haven't tried this flavor yet, but we'll try that one probably the next time.
Yeah, so this one is a little different than the Frito beans in that in the beginning, all you do is soften the noodles, so they don't even have to be boiling. You just need the noodles to be soft. And then you drain the water if you're like me, or if you like it super soupy, leave the water and then add the sauce and everything. Those things are kind of made separately. But again, you see the combination of something that's dehydrated, so you save on weight, and then some things that are fresh that you can't get out of a boil and bag meal. And so you have that nice combo. All right, and this one's my favorite by far. This one's my favorite, and also you get the same advantage where you can eat the cheese and the cashews separately if you're like starving and you need to keep hiking, or you can make it all into one meal, which I did one time. So, all right, the last one, my buddy Adam. This is his favorite, peanut noodles. This is my least favorite of the three, but it's still solid, and I still bring it all the time. I should also mention Andrew Skirka has like 4 or 5 other meals. He's got a chili, something with polentas, and we've tried them all, and they're all solid. But we just like these three the most. And
it's harder to get those ingredients because they're like freeze dried. You have to order them. I haven't seen them in the stores.
Yeah, that's true. Also, for us, like if you're going for 7 days of backpacking, maybe you want more variety. But you go 2 or 3 days, like it doesn't break your heart to eat 2 of these over the course of 3 or 4 days or something. So we don't mind the repetition personally, but maybe you would. And if you do, then check out his website and get that PDF from him, and check out his other recipes. All right, so peanut noodles.
So same thing, you just are using the noodles, not the packet. And then you prepare the sauce at home. So this is the recipe.
Okay.
Yeah, so peanut butter. This is like natural peanut butter that we would normally use. I just happen to have this as well. So you could choose what peanut butter you want. Then the olive oil, toasted sesame oil, soy sauce, honey, and then you kind of add the garlic and ginger to your taste. And then you can add salt and pepper as well. So you mix all of that up at home, and then you'd store it either in a little container or the bag again.
Yep.
And same as with the ramen or the pesto noodles. You just cook your noodles first.
You basically just get those soft,
yep,
all on their own. Drain the water if you want to drain it, or if you want it soupy, leave it soupy. Then you shovel out the sauce and dump in the peanuts.
Yep, or you can use cashews. I feel like we've often used cashews instead of peanuts.
Yeah, we've experimented with peanuts, with cashews, with pine nuts. Obviously, you can add any nut you want.
Yeah, it's just nice to have, because the noodles are a little mushy. Have a crunch is nice.
Yeah, that's right.
And adds like calories that you need out there.
Yeah, and again, if you store the nuts separately in a bag like we do, then you do have that option where if you're just starving, you can, grab some nuts, for a snack, and then sacrifice the meal later without nuts. Or if you end up skipping a meal altogether, like I've done a couple times, then you have that snack. So, all right, kind of a long one, but it's kind of involved. So we've been doing this now for, there she is. We've been doing this now for like 4 or 5 years. So we've probably eaten, I don't know, maybe 60 of these breakfast, lunch, and dinners in total. So, I mean, that's our experience level, not as much as some, but more than others. We modified his, stuff a little bit based on what we could easily find and what we like. But again, his recipes are the base for all of this, and also the philosophy behind it all. What were you going to say?
Oh, I just have this other one. I really liked this one. We've only done it like once or twice.
For breakfast, right?
For breakfast, but
yeah.
If you were going out longer, I mean, some of the other options are good.
Yeah.
I think you'd get sick of this. But.
Yeah. So if you're still watching, thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful or interesting. And takes your backpacking cuisine to the next level, saves you some money, saves your bowels, makes you a little healthier. And it's a little bit, it's just a nicer experience than boiling bag meals. We did those for a long time. So it's not like we haven't done it, but we just, in general, it gets really expensive, especially with a family of 5 like we have. And, the pockets of sodium in the corner that you never seem to get mixed up properly. That's awful. And just so many other things. You've been there. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll be happy to answer them. Check out Andrew Skirka's website, not just for this, but for anything in regards to backpacking. And if you watched all this and you didn't like it, I'm surprised, but give it a thumbs down and go check out his website and give him some of your business. All right, folks, take care.